let's build a drive shaft. Hey guys, I'm Sam with Scrappy Industries. Welcome back to the 1953 Mack A40 project, also known as the Mini Mack. In the last video, we reattached the rear axle using the original spring hangers. It's everything back where it was. Basically, it was a change of plans, so we put it all back, should have never taken it off. The next step, we need to build a drive shaft. I don't have the original drive shaft from this truck, but the engine and transmission have moved from their original location anyway, so I don't think it really matters. When this thing got swapped to a 5.9 Cummins, that moved the transmission forward about 3 inches, so the drive shaft's gonna be a little bit longer than the factory one was anyhow. I spoke to a local shop about making us a drive shaft. They gave me a hard time about having different size yokes on the transmission and the rear end. After doing a little bit of research, I found I could buy all the parts I needed to still run a 4-inch drive shaft tube with the different yoke front and back. So I decided, hey, let's just figure out how to build this thing ourselves. Let's get started. This is the transmission side. So this is the 1610 yoke. This guy fits into that, hopefully. Should be 2-inch by 16, yeah. Must be like a Teflon coating or something on there. So that can go all the way up like that, out to there. And this gives us our movement as the axle moves up and down in the suspension. So that's gonna weld into the front of the drive shaft. And then, on the back side of the drive shaft, we're gonna weld this yoke in, and this should be our 1710. As you can see here, it is larger than that one. But both of these are the same 4-inch tube with a 134 wall, I believe it is. And that's gonna be our drive shaft. So we also have this dust seal. It'll thread onto that. Keep this clean. I'm not sure if you're supposed to grease that. Yeah, evidently. Because that gets a grease fitting there to grease the splines. I thought it said it came with that, like a lube kit, but I'm not seeing it here, Lloyd. Probably just a grease fitting. I'm sure we have that. And then in addition, we also have the U-joints themselves for the front and the back. Let's kind of check out our parts here. And these are the bolt-in cap styles on both the front and the back. This must be the bigger one. Yep. So this is the rear kit. And they also come with the bolts that hold those caps in already Loctited for you. And then this guy should be a little bit smaller for the front. Basically, you can see the 1710 and the 1610, how different that universal is. Before we go too crazy here, I'm going to hold this up to the transmission yoke, hold this up to the rear end yoke, and make sure they're correct. And then we'll start really kind of finalizing our measurements on this drive shaft, and we'll get it cut. Look at that, still made in USA, surprisingly. Let's just check it out. Yep, Mexico on that dude. And USA on that guy, so yeah. Mostly USA still, Old Spicer. All right, let's check her out one time. Yep, that seems to match on the width. And the whole diameter looks to match as well. I think we'll be just Jim Dandy in there. So this is the drive shaft tube itself. You can buy these either welded or seamless. I got it seamless. Also seemingly not going in there. Also kind of a burr on the inside of their factory edge yet. We gotta clean that up. These were ordered by being a 134 wall thickness tube, because you could get this thinner. I forget what the other size was. I got it the thicker style tube Maybe it just needs a little debooger. Come on, girl. So measuring the ID of the tube, I'm getting 3.735. And measuring our yoke here, 743. That's like 8 thousandths press fit there. I wonder if you just put a little heat on that tube and put it on. I don't know that I ordered it wrong. Being that it's that close, I think if you missed the wall thickness, it'd be like really far off. And that's not a crazy amount of press fit for something that thin wall in this diameter, so we could probably just tap it in there off a block of wood on the floor too, but I'm thinking a little bit of heat on that tube wouldn't hurt anything. The good thing is if it's that tight, it's gonna be super straight, so I think they probably do that to make your life easy when you go to weld this, that we're not gonna have to hold it in the lathe or anything, I don't think. I think it's gonna be essentially piloted in here so that it's easy enough to weld up. I checked everything out online, and those part numbers are for the 4-inch tube with a 134 wall, which is everything we have, so I think they do want you to just have this interference. My only fear is putting this together. If we'd have to take it back apart, I think would be a nightmare. You're pretty well committed to welding it when you put this on. Now they do have this chamfered back, and then they have this side chamfered back as well, so we can get down in there with our weld bead. I think if I get one side in all the way, then we can take our measurements and check everything that I've done on a piece of paper the other day before we commit to where we're gonna cut this off. Now, because this is 6 feet long, the lathe is not that long, we're gonna have to hold one end in the steady rest and let it kind of hang off the back, and we'll hold the junk side, you know, like the waste side, and cut off a short piece and have the good piece hanging off the back side of the lathe. So we'll have to pull the tailstock off and use a steady rest in order to do that. So I drew out this very advanced drawing with all the dimensions of the yokes and everything, and let's just kind of do a sanity check and see how this all lines up. So where I thought we were going to end up, basically between the center of that yoke and the end of the tube, was right there about 14 inches, 14 and 1/8. And that's actually very close looking at it to where we are now. Then we lose 4 and 1/16 on the yoke on that side from the center line to the end of the tube, according to its drawing. I'll double check that to verify. So basically subtracting out the 14 and 1/8 and the 4.06 here, we ended up with a tube length of 56.471. And that was trying to put the yoke in the middle of its travel, which is what I've done now. We can basically go 2 inches in or out, so that should be plenty good there. We'll set this up. We're gonna shoot for the 75 and 5/8 that we'd measured yoke to yoke. And I think before we commit, we're gonna measure that one more time. So we'll set that 75 and 5/8 there. And then we'll just measure the tube and see if we're coming up with the basically 56.5 that I did on paper. So 56 and 7/8 is what we're gonna go with. 56 and 7/8. Measure twice, cut once. 75 and 5/8. Final answer. These parts, plus the 2 universals, shipping, everything, that's about $1,100. So I don't really want to do this again. So I want to show you what I'm talking about here as far as the length of this in the lathe. We need to cut right there on that line. Obviously, the tailstock cannot support the backside because it'd be floating out here in space. We're just not that big. So what I'm going to do is take the tailstock off and then stay. And then we have our steady rests here. As you can see by the dust, they don't get used too terribly much. We can set that down in there, support it somewhere out here, and we'll just part that off. Our good piece will be out here, and our junk piece will be in the chuck still.
take the tailstock off, there's just these couple of bolts here that run all the way down through it that we tighten to lock it. Oops. Alrighty, now she's ready to lift off there. This crank allows you to move it. You just have to take that out so it's not underneath there. That should just clear it, and we should be all good to go. Get her rigged up to the forklift here. And move over that way a little bit and pick her off. Hopefully everything stays. Stay. Somewhere right in there will be good. I kind of want the cutoff piece to be balanced-ish when it comes off. Ooh. Man, poor steady. Back to the little 3-jaw. We should just be able to grab inside the tube with these jaws. We're not concerned about hurting anything there because this is going to be the scrap piece in the chuck. Okay, now we're going to have to adjust this to get it all nice and true. Basically, because we can't indicate this in because we don't have a tailstock to catch this, and it really doesn't matter too much for what we're doing. We're just going to have to lower these down and pull these out basically until this steady rest will close up, and we'll just measure all three and make sure they're equal. So I just measured 2 1/8 on each one of the little fingers there on the steady rest. I think we're good enough. I'm going to turn this really slow because once we cut all the way through, this piece obviously is just kind of going to dangle there and stop. So it's just going to be chilling in our steady rest. So we can't go too crazy. We don't want to destroy anything here. We got to put the parting tool in next, and we have a Sharpie line, which is as accurate as this job needs to be. We're going to cut into it, chamfer for a weld, and then finish parting it off. I'm just going to hit this up with some motor oil for that to run on. These are not rollers, these are just little plastic pads. I don't know why, but parting on a manual lathe never goes well for me, so I'm slightly nervous about it from that aspect. This parting tool has seen better days. I ordered a new one last week, but it's not going to be here until Monday, and I kind of want to get this done this weekend, so we're going to send it. Hopefully we can make something happen. This is 43 RPM. Something's a little out of round. $29 RPM. At some point here we need to stop and put a chamfer on that. I'm going to dial back the compound. And this work the compound in to put this chamfer on. We got that chamfer on, I'm just going straight in now. We're just taking her easy. Got one hand on the clutch lever so we can kill it when something like that happens. I hate parting. It's like I predicted that. What happened? There's a hard something in the way. I don't know if it's carbide left over. There can't be much left. Oh yeah, so we only have like 5 or 6 thousandths left. It probably broke through right there, and that's why the insert left the chat. Maybe we just break it at this point? Well, since we have completely destroyed our parting tool and the carbide insert went somewhere, we're going to turn to a new resort here. Grinder, anyone? Try to keep super grinder grit out of the lathe. There's only like 5 thousandths left on here though, so I think this is our safest option. Ta-da! That did the trick nicely for us. Flip this guy up and out of the way. A little oil back there wouldn't hurt anything. So right here, I think that's where the insert exploded. We got a little bump we need to clean up. So I'd rather make a low spot than a high spot because the low spot isn't going to hurt anything. A high spot could push it out. And there's our drive shaft. Woo! And we got this nice extra piece of tubaluba. All right, on my measure 35 times and cut once, we're at 75 5/8. We're lined up there. We're lined up there. We're happy with our placement here. Let's send it. That's good for it. All right, come on, drop right in. Hey, probably didn't need that much heat. We'll let that cool down now, and then we'll do the other side. So one thing I do know is important about drive shafts and universals, everything, and I mainly just know this from PTO shafts on tractors, is you want the yokes to be aligned on the same shaft, and that is because if you have basically one, if it's the rear end's level and the transmission's level and the shaft goes like this, there's whip at each U-joint. And basically the drive shaft will accelerate and decelerate with that whip. But if you have the U-joints equal to each other on the same plane, they'll cancel each other out. If you put it 90 degrees off, it'll double the whip into the rear axle. So that's one thing we want to be careful of. And because this is splined, I don't know if it really matters where we land because you have to put it there. But I'm thinking we'll leave it, the spline's in so it's lined up, and then I can eye down this and put it in there so it's lined up with the other yoke. So we're going to be about here. I'm just going to keep that pushed in there snugly while it cools down around it. I got too much hot air as it is. This is pretty cool. Honestly, the way it tightens up around that pilot, I don't know that you need to cut it in the lathe. I think if you cut it with a bandsaw, I don't think it really matters. And I say that because as it tightens around that pilot, it's gonna put it concentric to the tube. So as far as that end face is, I don't think it really matters that much. So I'm on the lathe here and I'm just trying to figure out how true we are. And right now we're like 15 thousandths-ish, 18 thousandths-ish out. And this side needs to go down here, so. This doesn't seem like we're getting anywhere. The best I can come up with is that's where we start welding. So if we put a nice bead right through here, that'll actually pinch and draw that in a little bit, I think. And again, 15 thousandths out here, I don't know what that really matters. So we're having trouble holding this spline and turning this and accurately telling what's going on, I think. We have trouble because a 3-jaw is inherently not super accurate. We're holding on splines that aren't divisible by 3, so we're not holding them evenly. So even right at the chuck, this thing is out around. So what I'm gonna do is turn a point onto this chunk of steel here while it's still in the chuck, so it'll be perfectly true. We'll put that in this center here, and then hopefully we can just kind of spin it by hand with an indicator up there. I just wanna check things out, see how we're doing. All right, let's see how that goes in there. Put this down here so that we can all be in this together. That's much better than what we were seeing before. About 5 thousandths. All right, so our low side basically is further away from us. But if we weld over here first, I think that'll kind of draw it, in tighter over here, should push it away from that high mark. So I'm gonna TIG weld this. I think I feel more comfortable taking it. We can watch the puddle, get all the way down in there. This is only a 135 wall, so I wanna make sure we get all the way down into there. What I've done is taken my ground and clipped it out here. This way we can rotate this and just kind of let that cable wrap or unwrap. I'm not gonna be spinning it while I weld. We'll just have to stop and start. It'll be all right. I don't wanna have any current going through the spindle bearings in the lathe. That's why you wanna make sure you ground on your part if you're welding in the lathe like this. And I'm just gonna try to make, a couple inch pass, kind of right around that high mark. We'll weld through here, and then we'll stop and check it and see what we look like. All right, we got this thing behind the Shade 5 shield. We're gonna try to get some welding shots, hopefully. I have it set at 113 amps right now. There's our little bit of weld bead we laid on there. I'm curious to see now, how true is it? It's high. And low is still low by about 10 thousandths. So we really did not change anything. I think as tight as this is onto that pilot, you're not really changing it. It is what it is. So we can just go ahead and weld both ends up. So mainly just for our feeling's sake, we'll go to the low side, 180 out, weld that, just kind of keep the heat spread around. We weld that, and then we could probably almost connect those ones. Might take a couple passes, but I don't know, nothing too crazy. Nothing to write home about, but we'll take it. A lot neater than I could have done with a MIG gun, I'd say, on this little thin stuff. Some of this has a little bit of undercut to it after that. So I'm gonna hit it again with more or less a cover pass. I'm gonna clean it up with a flap wheel and some of those humps and bumps first. So now that we put that cap pass on there, I gotta say I feel a lot better about it. I think it looks much more professional. Did we stay right where we were? Yep, pretty much. All right, now we're gonna weld up the yoke side. All right, that takes care of that end. I'm gonna pop this guy out of there now. And she's ready to go in the truck. Trying to figure out how to get this grease / dust seal over this, and it's giant. So what I've come up with here, and I don't know if it's gonna work, is I have a couple sockets that are close to that size, because then I hopefully can push this through this way. I need to lube it up. It just seems like this has got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Yeah, we're gonna need some tire lube or something. Dunk. Man, that's asking a lot. We're gonna have to put this in the press and drive that socket through, man. Problem is we're going backwards to that seal. And now everything is slimy. Yeah. I don't know how it's ever gonna go. Can we press it in? Kind of fell off the side there. I really need to get some blocks burned out here from the old steel supplier. Blown out. Will it stay? Will it stay? Kinda. I feel like we're gonna lose what we have. No? All right, so that's on there. That's on there like that. Can we get it onto the splines? We're gonna need all the lubrication we can here. Man, I don't know how we're gonna get that started. All right, so our MacGyver try is we got a socket for our socket, and I'm hoping I can put that like that and drive this on. Don't you lose it. Hey, it started. Look at that. I can't believe that worked. More luberdube. And there she is. This is gonna end up with grease on it, so I don't really want tire lube. You see how that seal's pretty much shrunk back down to this diameter. Its whole purpose is just to hold the grease in this spline and keep the dirt out. Get this grease fitting back in our yoke. Ready? Now we'll just put our yoke on there. Like so. And then this seal threads onto it. And there's our drive shaft. Ready for installation. Give this a little pre-lubage. All right, we got grease coming out of there now. I think we are good. Let's stick it on. We might as well put one U-joint on where it's easy. Have the grease fittings sticking out this way. And there. They've already pre-greased these for us. And another one on this side. Some bolts. Come on. Wait, did they not thread that? Yeah, they didn't thread the holes. The holes aren't threaded on this side. They are on this side. Huh. They must have broke a tap somewhere in machining land there. Well, I guess we get to finish machining this for them. Well, remember when we were looking at the USA versus Mexico? This is one of the 2 Mexican parts. Apparently quality control is lacking. No worries, we'll just finish their job for them. I don't know if I have a bottoming tap. This is like a 5/8. This is like a 5/16 fine thread, which is a pretty odd size. Do we have enough thread length, Buster Joe? We don't need much. I bet we do. Oh yeah, nailed it. And we're getting the other side buttoned up. It seemed to have all the holes tapped. Beauty, Clark. Probably ought to take a little something and clean up those yokes first. I've had a couple different comments and now messages, people telling you to not breathe grinding and wire wheeling dust and everything, and you guys are absolutely right. I had this mask for polishing aluminum. That's what I always wear when I'm polishing trucks, and ultimately I should wear it more. I think you guys are right, because don't really want your lungs messed up. One thing that's hard to work on. I know I can't do it. All right, I'm gonna leave this set on this milk crate, I think. Hopefully help us get this started in here. Put that in there. And then like that. And we put the caps in. Just give it a little tappy. Tap, tap, taparoo. All right, one bolt started. Our last cap here. Let's give this a whirl. Probably went too far. Well, that one started. Oh, come on, girl. I might need a tap. All right. Get her cleaned up. Who knows, this rear end could have been laying in the dirt. This is just a whole used rear end I had bought. Well, I bought a whole axle. This rear end came out of it. So we could increase the ratio. Well, decrease the ratio, increase the speed. All right. There's that end. Uh-oh. Why are we not going? So close, just needs a little persuasion maybe. Get it more stuck. Oh, it is right there. Right there. Right there at the go point. All right, come. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It's really in there now. You know, we should have taken the grease fitting out of there. It's running into the yoke. We should have taken that out, and I don't think we'd had any issues. But we're all bound in there now. So we went. All right, got that pulled out. I think we can come back out now. Oops. All right. Now we can delete that grease fitting and then try again. Okay, grease fitting is out. Round two. Still doesn't want to clear it. I hope this is actually a 1610 yoke on the transmission. Oh, what is the issue? Oh, it's so close to going. There it is. If it doesn't fit, force it. I'm glad that this actually was the right size. Due to popular comments on annealing this copper line to make it easier to bend, we're gonna give that a whirl. I think we just need to heat it up till it's kind of reddish. I don't know. Probably a rosebud or a soldering torch would be better, but don't really have that. We'll just keep it coolish. Something like that, maybe. I did give this a quick bath in the parts washer. There's red. Yep, really soft, at least while it's hot. Looks like it's transferring around to the bottom just fine, being copper and all. Jeez. Really want to get where I started to kink it a little bit there. Make sure that's really annealed. Yeah. All right, and now we'll let her cool down. So we annealed it, and it is way easier to bend now. You guys are right. Now let's just see, can we get it bent correctly? And this is just a 1/2 inch EMT conduit bender, seems to fit it fairly well. I actually got a little mark in there this time. That's where we're going to go up. First, we want to straighten this back out. Getting pretty close to going to a rubber hose here. Try that. So I got this started. Now we can bend from there. Give this just a little more clearance on that clutching apparatus. Now that grease fitting there is fixed. We're going to be careful when we get down underneath there and bend that we keep this up. All right, how bad we looking? Really not hateful. We're there, we need to go there. All these old wires we're gonna just rip out of here, and then we need to do a lot of steam cleaning. This needs to go like way over here. Ah, piece of cake. I think she's going. Yep, seems to be. Well, that's all the airlines are hooked back up now. We should have brakes, at least whatever antique brakes we have, but we need to put the battery cables back on because I stole them for the Cleveland. They're behind it. We'll put those battery cables back on because we can make anything for the Cleveland. Those are already the right length to run from the starter over to the disconnect switch here on the side. I think the one from the disconnect down to the batteries, that might be on the Bay City. Sorry, Mac, you've kind of become a parts truck. Need to make sure there's oil in the transmission because I honestly don't remember. Maybe we put it in when we spun it up without a drive shaft on last year. The rear end, pretty sure, is empty, so we need to put gear oil in that. We need to put the battery cables back on, and then we need to put a little fuel tank and a battery back on this thing and see if it'll start because it's been quite a while. All right, we got a battery again. Fuel tank sitting on the milk crate because I think the truck's going to shake pretty hard. See if we can prime it up. I guess let's just go for it. I don't remember how we primed it the last time. This air buzzer is entirely too loud. Nothing is coming out of the return. Might have to hit YouTube and watch our own video on this. Yeah, look how this guy did it. We ran the electric fuel pump with two little alligator clips. I think it only runs it while you're cranking. Or a battery sounded good. Cycle the key there once. Now we got fuel coming out of the filter. Probably should have flipped that before we cranked it. Something's not right if it won't pick up after running that long on ether. It's like it's getting some fuel. It's like we're airlocked in the injection pump that hard. So at the fuel pump relay here, 30 to 87A, which is yellow and white, should connect power to the fuel pump. And I don't hear any fuel pumping. Oh, is it because the key is not on? You won't believe what I just found. What we thought was switched and we wired to is the seat fuel pump apparently, because it only works when the fuel tank selector is in the seat switch position. Thought I was just gonna start. Oh, it was. This is like security 9000. When I had this in the off position, it won't run. It has to be there. Ah, I can't believe it. Well, let's see if she'll take her first steps. Oh, this thing is awesome. I love it. I'm so back in love with this truck. Well, that pedal is dead. When you stand on it, it's like, whoa, which we have no boost. So I assume there's some sort of electronic boost sensor in there. Even still, you think it would have a little more than that. Might need to figure out how to do a little tuning on this thing. I don't know anything about how to tune the industrial ones, so I really don't know much about even the automotive old VPs as far as that goes, as far as what tuning options we have available, but we need to at least get it livened up, even if we don't really turn it up. It is a 53 block. Oh well, I don't care if we crank it up. If it cracks block, it cracks block. All right, let's, we still gotta put gear oil in the rear end. It was in the cold side, so I brought it over to get warmer so we could pump it. And we gotta pick it up on jack stands, of course, and then speed it up and see how it does. But it's pretty late on a Sunday night and I'm going to bed. Catch you on the flip. Pumped in a little bit of gear lube into our rear axle. We set her up on jack stands, so now it can all turn. And let's do some sketchy stuff. Doo-dah, doo-dah. Fire in the hole, see how she starts today. I guess neutral has some friction. That's third gear. Just her rubbing a little over. It was starting to smoke that tire a little bit. We need another notch. I mean, it was doing pretty good there, honestly. Shut that racket off. Man, I'm happy with that. This thing definitely needs some help on like the tuning or something because it's a dog. I mean, like it doesn't want to spin this thing up as it is, but we'll figure that out. Curtis might have a solution for us. Curtis! Airy diesel Curtis, that is. Everything I found the tuning on these VP44 trucks, there's a lot of options for the Dodge VP44s, but I don't know if that really translates into the ISB with the Cummins ECM. So we'll do a little research on that and see what we can figure out. But all in all, I am so happy with our new drive shaft. It seems to do really well. I mean, we had it going, I mean, I don't have the speedometer hooked up, but we had to be going 50, 60 mile an hour there. That was fifth gear, foot on the floor, whatever it felt like giving us. And there was really, you know, no vibration to speak of. The tires look like they're wobbling a bit. I'm sure you can see that in the video. The tires are like kind of all over the place, but I don't know. I think the drive shaft is great success. But with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. I really appreciate you guys tagging along for us figuring out how to build a drive shaft. And my takeaway is I don't even think you need the lathe. The way that it clamps on the ends after you heat up the torch, I think you can just chop it with a bandsaw and you'd be just fine if you're wanting to build one of these yourself at home and you don't even have a lathe. You don't need it. So I'm Sam with Scrappy Industries. Thanks for watching.